The galaxy had been silent for 3,000 years. Every signal, every beacon, every trace of the elder civilizations had gone dark. The great empires that once ruled 1,000,000 star systems simply vanished one day. They left behind empty cities, abandoned space stations, and technologies that younger species could barely understand. Nobody knew where they went. Nobody knew why they left. The only thing the remaining species understood was that they were now alone. The Galactic Council of Remaining Species gathered on the station called Last Light. It floated in the void between stars, a monument to the civilizations that had constructed it before their departure. Representatives from 47 species sat in the great circular chamber. They were afraid. Something was coming. Ambassador Velrath of the Sinari people stood before the assembly. His 4 eyes scanned the crowd with deep concern. The Sinari were peaceful beings. They had evolved on a world of endless oceans where violence served no purpose. Their bodies were soft, their minds were gentle, and their culture had never known war. "The devouring swarm has entered our region of space," Velrath announced. His voice carried the weight of absolute terror. "They have already consumed 17 inhabited worlds. They move toward the core systems. We have perhaps 2 cycles before they reach populated territory." Panic spread through the chamber. The devouring swarm was ancient. Even the elder civilizations had feared them. They were a species that existed only to consume. They ate worlds. They ate stars. They ate everything in their path. The elder races had kept them contained in the outer darkness for millions of years. But the elders were gone now. "We must flee," said the representative from the Crystalline Collective. "We must find where the elders went and follow them." "We do not know where they went," replied Velrath. "We have searched for 3,000 years. They left no maps. They left no messages. They simply departed." "Then we are doomed," whispered the ambassador from the peaceful gardens, a species of plant-like beings who had never even developed a concept of weapons. The chamber fell into despair. These were not warrior races. The elder civilizations had protected the galaxy for so long that violence had become unnecessary for most species. They had evolved beyond it. They had grown soft and kind and gentle. They had forgotten how to fight. They had forgotten why fighting was ever needed. In the corner of the chamber sat a small delegation that most species tried to ignore. They were newcomers to galactic civilization. They had only achieved faster than light travel 200 years ago. Their planet was a harsh world of extreme temperatures, deadly predators, and scarce resources. They called themselves humans. The Galactic Council had debated for decades about whether to grant humanity membership. The reports from observation teams were disturbing. Humans had spent their entire evolutionary history killing each other. They had developed thousands of ways to cause death. Their history was written in blood. Their cultures celebrated warriors. Their entertainment often centered on violence. Many council members had voted to quarantine Earth. They called humans a primitive species of killers. They worried that contact would contaminate peaceful galactic society. But eventually, the moderate voices won. Humanity was granted limited membership with heavy restrictions. Now, as the council descended into panic, the human ambassador slowly rose from her seat. Her name was Commander Sarah Chun. She had served in her species' military for 30 years. She had gray hair, a scarred face, and eyes that had seen too much death. The other ambassadors watched her with a mixture of fear and disgust. "We will fight them," Chun said simply. The chamber went silent. Several ambassadors looked at her as if she had spoken in a language they could not understand. The concept she expressed did not compute in their minds. "Fight?" Velrath asked. "How does one fight the devouring swarm? They are billions of ships. They are endless. They have consumed species that were old when our worlds were young." Chun smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "You asked why the elder civilizations left without saying goodbye. You wondered why they abandoned the galaxy so suddenly. I believe I know the answer. She walked to the center of the chamber. Every eye followed her. They ran away, Chun said. They ran because the swarm was waking up. They had kept the swarm contained for millions of years, but they knew their methods were failing. They knew that eventually the swarm would break free. And when that happened, they knew there would be a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. But why did they not stay and fight? Asked the crystalline representative. Because they had forgotten how, Chun replied. They had become too advanced, too peaceful, too civilized. War was something from their primitive past. They had evolved beyond violence millions of years ago. When the swarm began to wake, they realized they no longer had the stomach for what needed to be done. So they left. They fled to another galaxy, or another dimension, or wherever ancient cowards go when they abandon their responsibilities. Her words shocked the assembly. Nobody had ever spoken of the elder races with such disrespect. They left behind the younger species, Chun continued. The ones who had not yet evolved beyond violence. The ones who still remembered what it meant to fight for survival. They left behind species like mine. Commander Chen activated a holographic display. It showed the human fleet. Thousands of warships. Weapons platforms, troop carriers, fighter squadrons. The display showed weapons designed specifically to cause destruction on massive scales. For 200 years, the Council has called us primitive, Chun said. You restricted our movement. You monitored our communications. You treated us like dangerous animals that might bite. You were right to be afraid. We are dangerous. We are killers. We are exactly what evolution made us to be. She pointed at the image of the approaching swarm. We did not evolve on a peaceful ocean world. We did not grow up in crystalline caves where nothing threatened us. Our world was hell. Every creature on Earth was designed to kill or be killed. We developed intelligence not to appreciate art or philosophy, but to survive against predators that wanted to eat us. Our ancestors lived in constant war against nature, against other species, and against each other. Chun's voice grew harder. We never stopped fighting. Even after we achieved civilization, we kept fighting. We invented better and better ways to kill. We studied violence as a science. We perfected it as an art. Every generation, our weapons grew more terrible. Your observation teams were horrified by our history. They should have been taking notes. She turned to face Velrath directly. The devouring swarm is coming. You cannot negotiate with them. You cannot reason with them. You cannot run fast enough to escape them. There is only one solution, and it is a solution your species forgot how to implement 1,000,000 years ago. Velrath's voice trembled. What do you want from us? Resources, Chun said. Ships, materials, workers. The elder races left behind incredible technology. We need access to it. We need to study it. We need to turn it into weapons. And what will you do with these weapons? Chen smiled again. We will do what we have always done. We will kill our enemies until they stop coming. And if they do not stop coming, we will keep killing until nothing remains. The council debated for hours. Many species refused to participate. The idea of supporting violence violated their fundamental beliefs. But as reports came in showing the swarm consuming yet another world, minds began to change. Within 1 month, humanity had access to technology beyond their wildest dreams. Within 6 months, they had weaponized it. Within 1 year, they had built a fleet that dwarfed anything the galaxy had seen in 3,000 years. The Battle of the Void began on a day that would be remembered forever. The devouring swarm poured through the gap between stars like a river of destruction. They had consumed everything in their path for 1,000,000 years. They had never met meaningful resistance. They met it now. Human warships engaged the swarm with weapons that turned space itself into fire. Nuclear explosions bloomed like flowers across the darkness. Antimatter warheads erased entire portions of the enemy fleet. Human soldiers boarded swarm vessels and fought hand-to-hand against creatures that had never faced such ferocity. The battle lasted 3 months. The cost was enormous. Millions of human soldiers died. Thousands of ships were destroyed. Entire space stations were sacrificed as weapons, deliberately rammed into swarm formations. But humanity did not break. They did not flee. They did not surrender. They fought with the savage determination of a species that had spent its entire existence learning how to destroy things that wanted to destroy it. When the battle ended, the devouring swarm was broken, not contained, not driven back, broken. The few surviving swarm vessels fled into the outer darkness. Human hunters followed them. For the next 50 years, humanity tracked down every last remnant. They showed no mercy, because mercy was a concept that did not apply to existential threats. On the day the last swarm vessel was destroyed, the galaxy changed forever. The species that had called humanity primitive now looked at them with something approaching worship. The killers had saved everyone. The violent ones had protected the peaceful. Ambassador Velrath, now old and tired, visited Earth for the first time. He walked through human cities and saw monuments to warriors. He visited museums dedicated to the history of human conflict. He watched children playing games that simulated battle. He finally understood. "Your species never forgot," Velrath said to Commander Chun, who was now very old herself. "While the elder races evolved beyond violence, while the rest of us grew peaceful and soft, humanity kept the flame of war burning." Chun nodded slowly. "War is terrible. Violence is horrific. But sometimes terrible and horrific things are necessary. Sometimes the universe produces threats that cannot be reasoned with or escaped. Someone has to remember how to fight. Someone has to keep the old skills alive. Someone has to be willing to become the monster that kills other monsters. And that someone was humanity? Perhaps that is why we evolved the way we did," Chun replied. "Perhaps evolution knew that one day the peaceful species would need protectors. Perhaps our violent nature was not a curse, but a gift, preserved across millions of years for exactly this moment." Velrath was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "The elder civilizations departed because they could not face what was coming. They were too advanced for violence, too evolved for war. They left behind the primitive killers because they knew what we would not admit. They knew that one day the galaxy would need saving, and only the killers could save it. Humanity accepted its new role with quiet determination. They became the guardians of peaceful species. They patrolled the outer darkness where threats still lurked. They kept watch while others slept safely. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. Sometimes civilization needs barbarians. Sometimes peace requires warriors. Sometimes the most primitive skills are the most valuable. And sometimes the killers are the only ones who can protect the innocent." 3,000 years after the elder civilizations fled, a new message spread across every communication system in the galaxy. It was simple. It was a promise. It was a warning to any future threat that might emerge from the darkness. Humanity stands watch. The primitive killers remain, and they will never depart.